Legalistic parenting can crush your kids and your family. Join me and my special guest for this important conversation today on Family Vision.
Hi, my name is Rienow. Welcome to Family Vision with my parents, Dr. Rob and Amy Rienow, strengthening families through practical, encouraging, and real conversations.
Rob Rienow here with Visionary Family Ministries. I am excited to introduce you to my friend, Pastor Adam Page. Adam is the preaching pastor at Amelia Island Baptist Church. Adam, welcome to Family Vision.
Hey, Rob. It's good to see you, man.
Adam, you are on the front line of family ministry, both as a husband and a father, and I'll have you introduce your family here in just a second, but also as a pastor. You and I have been friends for the last few years, seeing each other at different church events and interacting online. And I appreciate your heart and your courage. You are a fighter for the gospel and for families. And so I wanted to have you on to Family Vision to ask you, what are some of the frontline battles you are seeing Christian families dealing with today? But before you address that and answer that question, tell us a little bit about your own home.
Oh, wonderful. My wife, Amy Jo, and I have been married for 14 years in July. We have 4 children, 3 girls and a baby boy, a 10-year-old, 6-year-old, 5-year-old, and then Deacon, my son, is 2. And so we've been at Amelia Baptist Church here in Amelia Island, Florida, for 10 years in May. And I started as the sort of associate pastor over discipleship and family ministry. Then it became sort of a preaching pastor position. So that's mostly what I do now, but I still spend a lot of time counseling families, discipling families, and bringing families into our home, hearing their stories, praying for them. So it's been a wonderful time, wonderful community.
All right. So as you're coming alongside lots of families, both in friendship and with your pastor hat on, what are you seeing as some of the frontline battles that Christian families are dealing with right now?
I would suggest that most of the time, families are basically delegating a responsibility that's been given to them by the Lord to be the primary spiritual disciplers of their own children. They've been delegating that to programs, to churches, to pastors, not just to assist them or to equip them, but to basically take over those responsibilities that they have been given by God to enact in their children's lives. And I think that's really what all this stems from, is not knowing that God has given parents this responsibility to be the primary spiritual disciplers of their home. So that, first of all, you're combating sort of a cultural norm. You're combating something I think the church, whether it be advertent or inadvertent, has assisted in the normalization of babysitting 5-year-olds to 17-year-olds for a period of time spiritually. Seeing them 1 to maybe 2, maybe 3, if you're lucky, 3 hours a week in current sort of context. And so with that said, not near enough effort, not near enough discipleship at home. The morning devotion, the night family worship, all of these things are drastically missing in the life of the average family in our country that confesses Christ as King. So that's the main combatant. Yeah. Is this this misunderstanding of role and the misappropriation of what belongs to the family to the local church.
Well, that's certainly a very sensitive subject for me. I didn't grow up with 2 Christian parents. I had a Christian mom and an atheist dad. My mom came to Christ when I was a baby, and she was told, right, this would have been, I was born in 1971. So, she was told, well, hey, most important thing is get little Robbie in Sunday school.
Right.
Now, she did put me in Sunday school, but she also definitely was my primary spiritual trainer growing up as far as prayer with me and scripture in the home. And so I'm absolutely grateful for that. But then everybody in the Family Vision community already knows my story of first 10 years of our marriage and family. For our first 4 children during those 10 years, I was totally neglecting my family spiritually. I was pastoring at church, so I was investing in everybody else's family, but not praying with my kids, not reading the Bible with my kids, no family worship in our home, no prayer with Amy other than like times of crisis and mealtime. So this whole idea of, like you said, delegating the spiritual training of our kids to the professionals something very sensitive. And I think every Christian parent to a degree has had to navigate.
Right. And I think that has, like you said, with us being on the front lines of this, and our church specifically is one that has adopted a family equipping ministry philosophy, where we haven't canceled Sunday school. We haven't eliminated Wednesday night activities. There are plenty of wonderful teachers here at our church. But all of this is built on the ground floor of Deuteronomy 6 and the appropriation of the righteous responsibility to disciple one's kids in and outside of the home.
Adam, for some parents, when they hear you need to be the primary discipler of your child, for some parents, they respond to that by thinking, well, we need more rules at home, or we need more structure at home. Can you respond to that a little bit? This idea that discipleship immediately therefore means rules?
Absolutely. I think we would refer to that as legalism, a word that is often used and hardly ever, I think, correctly understood. We tend to mean, you're all about rules and you've forgotten the heart of those matters. But yet parents will say that out loud over the things they disagree with. When it comes to parents giving rules inside their household, that tends to be immediately how they try to solve any problem. You have kids who are not obeying the rules that are set before them in the household. I think every house has rules. And if they don't set those rules, we answer with more rules, as if we think that through legalism, which is trying to correct a heart issue from the outside in, we think that's going to improve our children or have our children seek Christ. And they will not measure up to that. That is giving them standards. That is giving them, honestly, more rules on top of the commands that God already gives us that they'll fail in. And when they feel that failure, they may lean into that failure, and it increases depression and anxiety and sort of an anxiousness. And so we've sort of gone away from the idea that you can have rules while also having grace and showing your children mercy. Family equipping is more than just telling parents the right set of rules that they need to apply inside their home. It's showing them how they can fall in love with the scriptures, how they can seek God, and how he can meet us wherever we are, and how we can respond to God, who's given us grace in Jesus Christ, with faith because of what he's done, not because of what we bring to the table, while at the same time knowing that there are standards and rules, all rules and standards, by the way, that Jesus Christ has met perfectly. And so I think that should alleviate a lot of pressure, understanding the gospel, that he has met those, and now we live under his atoning blood. But if all we're doing is setting rules for our kids and then applying and putting more rules on top of our kids, that hardly seems to me like a really valuable way of teaching your kids to desire the heart of God. And I think that legalism has been pretty rampant in households.
You said something really interesting. So you make rules, kid breaks the rules, and you respond to that with more rules. Can you give an example or two, either from your home where you've done that, or, from a hypothetical family out there that you have observed?
I will go ahead and just give you a personal example. It happened not 48 hours ago, because that's just the most
keep it fresh.
Yeah. I mean, why throw anybody else under the bus, man? But, if you many people have a problem at the dinner table when it comes to eating. And I think more and more kids can be finicky eaters, depends on, I guess, the kid. And I remember the Clean Plate Club was a really big deal in my household. Really, you want to belong to the Clean Plate Club. Sometimes China got mentioned. That's where all the people who couldn't eat lived. And so, it was like, if you need to eat everything that's on this plate, that's going to show God that you're grateful for what you have. It's going to have your belly full and you'll sleep better. So we have all these things we looked up and Googled somewhere. So I remember I'm doing that. Of course I'm doing that. So we're at the dinner table and I'm telling my Zoe, who's 5 years old, you need to eat everything. You need to try everything. And then she refuses. She's just flat out refusing. She's showing that beautiful will. And she's in trouble now because that's direct disobedience. And we try to respond with direct disobedience with consequence. And it's like, all right, so now, you're not gonna get this. You're gonna have to wait, and you're gonna have to go in timeout. And so on top of that, it's like, now not only do you have to try everything, which you wouldn't do, you now have to finish everything on the plate. So I've upped the ante. It's not just try everything now. It was just, I need you to at least take a bite of everything. Now it's, I need the clean plate. Now the plate needs to be cleaned. You thought it was bad before. Now check this out.
Hmm.
And I'm not suggesting, I think people go so hardcore in the other direction. I'm not suggesting that discipline's not necessary, but I think that I'm studying the instinct to just apply another rule, the rule that she's already broken. That's what I'm trying to go after. I'm trying to ask myself, why is this the way we're communicating with our kids who, in the long term, eternal perspective, we're trying to teach to obey their parents because it's an act of love towards God?
And, in the example you just gave, not only did you respond to her not obeying you when you said, please try everything with more rules, now you need to finish everything, but you actually gave a consequence of anger too, right? You got elevated. I don't know if you raised your voice or whatever it was. So she didn't obey, and the consequence was anger plus more rules. And even just saying that out loud doesn't sound very gospel-y.
No, it's embarrassing. No, it's absolutely. I think if you had cameras all over your house that showed the real life, you'd be really embarrassed a lot of how you handled things as an imperfect person. I would just be curious as to sort of what you think about, do you think parents are having those conversations with their kids enough? And I know that's a real general, vague question, but what is stopping parents from actually having those conversations, because it's just maybe quicker or easier just to throw out a command and to give the whole because I said so, even though it seems to me the older I get and the older my kids get to be less and less effective?
Well, I think you're putting your finger on something. And the first thought that comes to mind in your question does have to do with the issue of anger and how difficult it is for us to, as parents, to circle back around and do exactly what you just said. Hey, I'm asking the Lord to help me with this, that when we lose our temper, when we get harsh, to circle back around with the child and say, I yelled at you. I lost my temper. It was not your fault that I got mad. That was my fault. That's my own anger. And I know that hurts you. Will you please forgive me for that? Yes, Dad, I forgive you. Okay, now let's try to talk about this situation again. Give me a do-over, son. Give me a do-over, daughter, because I do want to talk to you about this, not only your behavior, but the heart behind it. But I really messed this up by getting angry. I think that very few Christian parents ever had any kind of experience like that with their own parents. I think there's been very little discipleship from the pulpit on how to handle anger. You have Christian parents all over the place. When they lose their temper, they yell at their kid and they say, I would not have had to get angry if you had not da 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 da. So they're blaming their child for their own anger and their own character problem. And I'm not talking about yelling at your 2-year-old when they run in the street. If they run in the street, yes, please yell at them to get out of the street. That's not what we're talking about here. So there's a deep level or a deep gap, I think, in just general Christian discipleship that then overflows into the issue of parenting. Adam, I want to ask you one more question, and we're going to pick up with a second episode, but it's on this subject of anger. I know that you are particularly concerned with something you're seeing with young adults as it relates to anger in their hearts. I want you to talk about that a little bit, and then we're going to get ready for session 2.
Absolutely. They have a resentment in their hearts, typically for their parents, for what they would claim their parents not being real.
Now, these are 20-somethings that you're navigating with in your ministry.
Every Sunday night they come and we just do Bible study. We eat, we have fellowship. My kids are there. My wife is there, which we have learned is a huge part of the draw for that age group. They want to be around a family. Some of them want to be around just a semi-functional family that actually loves each other. That means a lot to them. And so what we've seen brought to the table through some times of confession, some really serious times of testimony, whether it be in private or in the middle of the group, is that they are so angry and they're dealing with anger over their parents not being real or authentic with them about their own sins. And so I would piggyback on everything you've said. I think you're right on the money. But I think that, too, there is a lack of confession from the parents' end to the children that has led to the kids feeling this massive amount of anxiety and pressure, which, if you look at the statistics, this generation is probably not only filled with as much information as humanly possible due to technological advances, but also anxiety. They're incredibly anxious. Why? Because they believe their parents did something perfectly or set an impossible standard for them, and they will not be able to meet it. And so they constantly are navigating through the feeling of being a failure. And that's led to anger because they, in their own sin, have moved to idols rather than the living Christ to be a part of their identity or to try to solve their problems or try to fix their solution, even temporally. And so we are navigating in biblical discipleship alongside the parents. In many cases, we have a lot of parents who have asked forgiveness and corrected this and moved towards this with their kids. We have navigated it through biblical discipleship to remind them that we are all sinners equal at the foot of the cross, and this includes their parents, and that they need to forgive. We aim them at their parents for reconciliation to say, you will not be able to run from this. You need to deal with this anger. But yes, these unmet standards, these unmet expectations.
Which ties back into where we started with the issue of the legalism in the home, and now it's coming full circle.
Absolutely. Wow. And seeing that if you ask any person who is under that deconstruction, I'm sure you've gone over this before. I think I have heard you go over this idea of just deconstructing from the faith or leaving the faith altogether. They're doing so very confident that they are leaving something that has been dangerous to them. They are leaving something that has been inflicting their mental health. And so why do they feel this way? Because they feel free of this fear, of this irrationality, of this anger. They don't have to meet any expectations anymore from anybody else because they are their own God and they are the ones setting these expectations for themselves.
All right, Adam, we've got a lot more to talk about because I want to talk about the positive. And what I mean by that is, okay, if we don't want to end up with angry, bitter 20-somethings for our sons and daughters, what can we start doing right now in our homes to pursue the heart, push back on this curse of legalism? So we're going to come back and do another episode. But can you just please tell folks how they could learn more about your ministry, learn more about your podcast?
Oh, wonderful. So we're at Amelia Baptist Church. We have our YouTube channel and all that kind of stuff, but mainly a lot of our applicational ministry and topical discussion is done through We Bear Witness. They're available. We Bear Witness is available on all podcast platforms, and it has a YouTube channel as well. We would love to see you subscribe to that and comment. And if there's anything we could discuss from this perspective, we would love to hear from you.
I love it. Adam, we're going to do another episode here. As always, Family Vision friends, you can reach out to me and Amy with prayer requests for your family, comments, questions, reactions to this show or other episodes. Please email us at podcast@visionaryfam.com. We'd love to see you for one of our live events. Those are happening around the country every year. Find us. We'd love to see you face to face. Visionaryfam.com. Click the events button. And I'm looking forward to our next time together with you on Family Vision.